Okay. Okay.
Would you like me to start?
Yep.
Okay, so the first package is the document titled Chapter 9, Natural and Cultural Heritage version with changes shown 24th of April 2015. So on that one, the resolution is to amend Chapter 9 as shown in the document tabled and titled as I've just described. The key thing is three key things I'd like to highlight to you there in terms of some changes that are recommended. The first is on page 18 to 23, and that relates to the natural character section. So what has been included in there within several of the policies is some values describing natural character values for Ngāi Tahu. So that's some additional points into the policies. Then the second point is on in the heritage section, section 9.3 at page 45, if you'd like to turn to that. So that is a resolution relating to heritage upgrade works to heritage item, and that relates to seismic, fire and access code upgrades. And the resolution, or part of the change there, is to have Group 1 heritage buildings as a controlled activity for that type of works. So at the moment it's proposed as restricted discretionary, so that would mean for both Group 1 and Group 2 heritage items it would be a controlled activity status. That seemed to be more appropriate and quite adequate to manage the impact of that type of works. And just to there's a couple of other points there, some on page 46 in relation to settings. There's a proposal currently in the document that new development in the setting of a heritage item would be non-notified. Now on further analysis, proposing that actually we remove the non-notification clause, so there is an ability on a case-by-case basis to determine whether non-notification should be allowed. And the final one is a minor clarification to some clause referencing to do with the restricted discretionary activities. That's a very minor point. And then some other minor updates in that document around clause number and titles. So that's the first resolution. Don't know if you had any questions on that.
Any questions? Okay.
Just in relation to the change to controlled activity, what does that actually mean? And can you explain what's now Heritage 1 and 2, since we only have two categories now? Or we're only going to have two categories?
Okay, so a Group 1 heritage item is an item that's a high significance heritage item, and a Group 2 item is a significant heritage item. They're all significant, it's just the Group 1 over upper significance. So the rules are the same in terms of the activity status across the board, but where the difference in that activity's recognition comes in of high and significant comes in at the matters of discretion, so it would have a role in the consent process. And what the controlled activity status would mean is that an applicant could apply, for instance, to do seismic upgrades. Now the council would not be able to turn their application down, but they would be able to inform the development, they'd be able the development proposal, and they would be able to apply conditions around it. So we have looked very carefully at whether you could do permitted with standards. That's not readily achieved. Restricted discretionary is seen as a more onerous consent for the type of works, and that control would be quite applicable. That does differ, that's why I'm highlighting it to the existing Central City Recovery Plan. Currently for Group 1 and Group 2 heritage items, it's restricted. Sorry, I need to check the provisions here, but the proposal is to have controlled across the board for Group 1 and Group 2.
It's currently?
For Group 1 and Group 2, it's currently controlled, and for Group 3 and Group 4, it's currently permitted.
So are there a number of buildings, sorry Leanne, that were in Group 3 and 4 that are obviously now in Group 1 or 2, where we've made it harder for them to seismically upgrade?
So perhaps if Amanda could speak to the mix of what's gone into Group 1 and Group 2.
Yes, so some buildings have gone up a group.
Well, some of them must have gone up 2 groups.
So, 8 Group 4 buildings in the central city, at least, have gone to high significance.
So where is that list? Sorry, can you refer to it?
No, I've just got these figures.
No, the list is in the schedules.
That's scheduled document.
The schedule, okay, so can you just point to the ones that have gone up from one category to another?
I don't have that detailed information, I'm sorry, I've just done the numbers.
You've got any examples?
We can come back to you with that, perhaps, or send it out to you on an email if you like, because what Amanda doesn't have is the old schedules with her at the moment to do the comparison.
So how many have gone?
So many,
How many buildings are we talking about? And have you got a difference between the CBD and the rest of the city?
Yes, so 8 Group 4s have gone to high significance in the central city.
To Group 1?
Yes,
Wow.
Group 4s have gone to Group 1, sorry.
that's
Yeah,
right.
8 Group 4s have gone to Group 1
In the central city.
in CBD, yep.
Yep. 23 Group 3s have gone to Group 1.
Wow.
33 Group...
Hang on,
Sorry.
to Group 1 in CBD,
Yes.
yep.
33 of the existing Group 2 have gone to the new Group 1.
Oh. 64 people. Do they know?
Yeah.
They will
Hang on.
know before notification when we send out the directly affected party letters, but this notification doesn't occur until June.
Yes, I know, but they haven't been consulted with. They don't know.
No,
that this is-
because we have determined not to do consultation.
Oh no! Come on. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm
It is
not
important
going
that we-
to have a.
It is important that we know before
yeah.
we make that decision.
But yeah, and so what's the and what's the other group? You went 8 4s to 1, 23 3s to 1, 33 2s to 1.
Yes. So all of the Group 1 buildings in the central city, which the current Group 1s, have gone to the new Group 1.
Right.
They've stayed there.
So how many Group 1s are there?
40.
40. And now, how did Group 2 get made up of then? How's presumably some of the 4s have gone to 2, and some of the 3s have gone to 2.
Yes.
So could we have those numbers as well?
Just to get the information.
I would note that this is also online, available to the public to consider. We just haven't done the consultation.
Yeah, I know, but there's a difference between consultation generally, which is what we're not having hearings ourselves because the decision maker's the independent hearings panel. But what I'm worried about is that there are a number of people out there who won't know that this proposed listing is in the offing until they get a letter in June.
And it's too late.
And that's too late. Yeah, Tim.
The Group 4s that have gone up to Group 1, it seems quite a jump. So have they gone to Group 1 because they are left? Or is it, and that's their significance has risen because they have survived? Or is it because of something else?
It's because we've revised our criteria and methodology for listing, and we've introduced thresholds for listing. So what is a Group 1 at the moment is a place of national or international significance, which has been assessed through a methodology, a numerical assessment. So we've moved away from the numerical assessment because it's not best practice. And it actually came up with some strange results where places were actually shown as having lower value than their real heritage value.
So are there any Group 4s that have stayed Group 4s? Oh, so, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
so Group 2s.
statement of expectation that we have a more simplified district plan.
Yep.
So staff have simplified it into 2 categories.
Yep.
That was actually something we were looking at before the earthquake,
Yes.
as we were doing a review, so that
But-
it's much clearer.
So are there any Group 4s that have gone to Group 2 rather than Group 1?
Yes.
But just
And obviously a number that have dropped off and been removed as well.
Are there any? Oh, well, we can get those numbers as well.
Yes.
So how many Group 3s and 4s have gone altogether off the list? But you're going to give us the 4s and 3s that have gone to Group 2 now?
Yes,
I can do
yes.
that, yes.
We'll
So
do that in an email later today for you, or tomorrow.
I've got the figures of, so out of the 32 Central City Group 4s, 24 have moved to the new Group 2. Of the 49 current Group 3s in the Central City, 26 have moved to the new Group 2.
Previously in Group 4, did you just have to take a photograph of it before you demolished it, or what was the rules?
It was for demolition.
Demolition, I'd have to check the detail. Oh, sorry, for demolition it was a non-compliant for Group 1 and Group 2 and discretionary for Group 3 and Group 4.
And now it's,
Proposed to be non-compliant for all
All of
heritage
them.
items. Yeah. I think the important thing to reflect on is that these items have been updated on a new, revised, robust methodology. It's a very thorough assessment, so it's from 1995, an update up to the present. So they've all met the threshold for significance. The difference is that we've reflected a Group 1 and Group 2 approach.
Except that you don't know what the internal damage is on some of the buildings.
So as Amanda's outlined in her technical report, she's outlined what the assessment process has been relative to what's been examined as part of that assessment, and how, to the extent that that includes exterior or interior perb.
so have you seen inside all of these buildings before you've
No.
listed them?
Not every single one of them.
No?
It depends on the landowner's willingness to allow us to look inside as well.
Well, that might be a hint.
Did you still want a list of the heritage buildings outside of the city centre and their groupings?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've kind of I haven't brought the appendix with me. Street addresses don't tell me what buildings we're talking about. So,
Is it in the papers that we got? Right.
yeah, it is. And
Is it the section 32 basically?
It's an appendix to the section 32. I'll just bring your attention to the fact that those Central City figures, a higher percentage of Group 3 and 4 have moved to the new top group in the Central City just because of the nature of the heritage in the Central City. Those are places which make a big contribution to city identity. An example I can draw on is the bridges. So a lot of the bridges were in Groups 3 and 4, but those have gone to the higher group, the new Group 1.
Group 1
The
for a bridge.
bridges.
sorry, I'm just kind of looking at it. Have you got a list of the Central City buildings that we're actually talking about? I mean, it's just.
So that's what,
The schedule?
It's in the schedule.
Yeah, sure.
Can you just draw my attention to the CBD page? You know, like the list of buildings.
Okay. So Kimberly handed around a schedule of all the proposed items for Chapter 9.
Yeah.
So that, actually, yeah, sorry, that is Chapter 9, that's outside the Central City. You may have in your package of information from last week the Central City specific schedules. You would have them, sorry.
Yeah.
can we have a clue?
But they're in the they're in the Central City chapter, which.
Yes, because the Central City chapter is a standalone chapter, but there'll be schedules attached to that, to the actual chapter.
So are they in the appendices?
No, they're in the chapter.
In the chapter.
Okay. So these are all outside the CBD. So how many of these have shifted category?
Yeah. So You're talking now about outside the central city.
Yeah,
Do
the
you have
appendix
those?
that you've just given us.
Yeah.
Yep, so I've split Christchurch and Banks Peninsula because those are split in the schedule. Of the 71 Group 4 in Christchurch, 12 have gone to high significance, 59 have gone to significant, that's the new Group 2.
How many? 9.
59.
59. Yep.
Of the 84 current Group 3 buildings in Christchurch, 25 have gone to high significance, Group 1.
Yep.
59 have gone to significant, Group 2.
So actually, of the Group 3s, they're all now in Group 1 and 2.
Yes.
And same with the Group 4s.
Yes.
Right. So they've just been reallocated to Group 1 and 2.
Yes.
Except the rules much.
Yeah.
As long as they're not taken off the list.
Nobody got taken off the list.
So
I'm assuming.
there have been 14 deletions from the Christchurch list, 49 from the Banks Peninsula list, and 4 from the Central City list. Those are our deletions. A total of
deletions or-
67
Are they deletions or demolitions?
deletions.
I mean, the buildings still exist, but they've been deleted, right?
Largely, yep.
Before we do those Central City ones, I'd really like to know the names of those buildings.
Yeah.
Right,
But,
and I
but
can't find
the
them.
names of the building must be on the other appendix.
I don't know what we're looking
Yeah.
at.
Central City, proposed new historic listings, and then it's just got a list, like Coca for
Cover?
example. Page
They show us the
48.
cover,
Oh,
Danny.
So section 32. Central City Natural and Cultural Heritage.
In the section 32, but it's also attached to the chapter.
I think one of the important things to note about the grouping in terms of how that comes into play with the rules is that the rules are the same in terms of the trigger for a consent requirement, regardless of whether it's a Group 1 or a Group 2 building. So as I said before, it's at the matters of discretion where a consideration would be taken into account as to whether it's Group 1 or Group 2. And in terms of the rules, some of the activities are actually more enabling around repairs and maintenance. For instance, that's now proposed to be permitted with standards. And the controlled activity status for heritage upgrade works for Chapter 9 items is an enabling approach. And the policy framework is an enabling approach, but also taking strongly into account conservation principles. So I think it's worth thinking about the grouping, but in the context of how the planning provisions have been tailored around that.
But the rules have significantly changed for people who were previously 3 and 4.
They would have changed to an extent, yes. Likewise for Group 1 and Group 2, they would have also changed. And that's been considered on a range of matters as to taking into account the earthquake context, the statement of expectations, but also getting the right balance as to when it is appropriate to have a high level of consenting requirement relative to whether there's potential for irreversible impact on the heritage building, or where, for instance, like the controlled activity status, we're proposing that those works should go ahead and not be able to be declined, but it's good for the council to be able to inform that process.
I think that, in terms of looking at this, thank you, that the struggle that we're all having is that we can't see what they were before. So we don't actually know who is affected by the significance of the rule change. So that's the struggle that we're having as councillors, and it's I was going to say it's easy for you guys because you're all over this and you've got the detail in your head, and you've got files which have shown previous listings and current listings. So, but we don't have that. What we have in front of us is whether it's got a heritage listing and what group it's in now, but it doesn't show where it's come from. And so we're having a little bit of difficulty of knowing how many people are going to be impacted by these changes. We're a little bit concerned about the very late notification to people, and it may well be that, if we're only talking, literally, less than less than 500 buildings in total across the two areas, there may be a prior notification to them that they are being considered for this change and what those changes would mean, would alert people to the situation now, rather than wait till June when we formally notify. So.
We could do that, but the chapters are going to the ministers next.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that now or after they've gone to the ministers and well before, that's fine. We could do either way.
Yeah.
Would you like us to tabulate in some way a comparison between the operative plan and the proposed plan?
Could you easily put together and just do it citywide, the city, central city,
Yep.
and then the
rest.
and the rest, and just basically, but group them. So you've done it by street address on the out of Christchurch, but just group them as churches, as private residences, as school settings.
Certainly, yep. This
just
is
so
for
that we get
yourselves,
an
yes.
idea as
Sure.
to what's and a number of them will be things that we own as a council.
Yes.
I presume that we own the New Brighton, clock. I don't know for sure, but I presume we do.
Yes,
So that we've got an idea of who's affected.
Sure.
I don't know that it matters so much if we're putting a higher rating on ourselves. I just think that it's because we kind of know that we're doing it.
And I think what we'll do for you as well to clarify the situation and also just to condense it for you is give you an understanding of the past rules and the proposed rules and what their effect is.
Yes.
I don't think potentially they're as great as what
No,
you consider they may be.
and that may be the case.
Yeah.
And so a very simple summary of what
Sure.
the rules were for category 1, 2, 3, 4,
Certainly.
and what the rules are now for 1 and 2. And whether the Heritage New Zealand listing makes a difference, because I'm assuming that it does.
Yeah,
and
we'll do that.
Yeah, and then because if the heritage listing is sufficient in its own right to carry with it, and I've always wondered, why, for example, we have things listed when they don't, and vice versa. Or that they don't match, like they're a category 2 heritage but high significance for us. It seems to me that getting a single streamlined approach to the heritage between Heritage New Zealand and ourselves,
Which is what we're trying to do. But yes, we'll bring that to you. What we'll do is we'll email that to you well before Friday.
Yeah.
So can I take your lead as to whether you'd like to press on with the rest of the natural and cultural heritage chapter? So that's the ecological, trees,
Yep,
sites.
sure.
The owners, and you mentioned with regards to we own some of them. We've got a team working with, for instance, Rising Home, which is they will have a repair strategy set. So if that team doesn't know if there's any, I don't know, there may not be any change. So it is actually quite important that our own staff know that these changes, and if indeed they're going to affect that at all. Because our community's been waiting for a long time for Rising Home. It's great, it's going to happen, etc. So it's really, we need that cross silo communication, if you like.
Yep. Yanni?
The thing that I want to read is the individual assessment from each building, but I can't find that in the documents that I've got. Like if I look through the S32, if I wanted to look up, the Antiguous Street footbridge and the assessment you've done, where do I find that information?
So that was in the information that I think last Friday it was all on the sides, 2 sides. There's a whole stack of information of an individual statement per item.
Right.
So we do have those.
Is it available electronically online?
It is, yes.
So I just think it'd be really useful to send around that link so that we can find it. I've tried to look at the district plan stuff and it's really difficult.
It's all online with the agenda. Just if you look under agendas, you'll see all the documents
Sorry,
there.
I'm pretty IT illiterate. I can't find it, and I keep going to the independent hearing
Just send the
panels.
link,
So
the
you just send
direct
the
link to that
the
agenda item.
individual technical ones. I think that'd be really useful. And then the other
Yep.
thing is, in the chapter that we've got, you've got like a really good table of the new categories, but I don't know the information we're getting back. Is it possible to have maybe just a red box or something that shows where they've come from? Because that's kind of the information that's missing around the listings.
How do you mean?
So if it was a group 4 previously,
Yeah,
or
that's it,
what-
but that was my point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
so
Because you've actually got the whole table there. It
Yeah.
just is missing that.
I know,
one
no,
thing.
but no, that's what I just said,
Yeah.
was that it
That's-
is missing
yes.
from
Yeah.
That's
this.
what we're
We
going to
can't
provide
tell
to you.
what it was. And I was just saying that you know, that there's more perfect information in the department than there is around this table. And I think that's why people are struggling. You know, and look, it's nobody's fault, but we're working on a really, really tight timetable. And, you know, I know that there's probably a degree of frustration being felt at the end of the table and not being expressed.
No,
But,
no, that's fine. We just wouldn't put it in the section 32 because the section 32 is to support this current document.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is do that work for you and circulate it to you all well before Friday.
Because the
Yeah.
thing in the section 32 is you've listed an assessment on like each tree. But you haven't listed the assessment on the building. So that's what I find really difficult. But
We have.
The assessments for the buildings are there. They are in the
They just
documents
they
that we
weren't
had on
printed
both
out,
sides of the
Yanni.
road.
They made that point on Friday.
I understand
Yeah.
that. But from a public point of view, if you're reading the draft proposal,
Yeah, they're not going
assessment-
to be reading that. They'll be online. That's the truth of it. They'll be
Okay.
online.
And then,
Yes.
so
It's
the
an
other,
appendix
That's
to that
correct.
document.
right. So the other two outstanding things to me around this chapter are the High Street having there is a discussion around heritage areas, and I'd really like to understand if we're proposing to do anything there, and also.
Sorry, we're on the chapter 9, which is not High Street. So High Street's included in the
Central
City chapter.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking. So we're just talking non-central city here.
Yeah, Natural and Cultural Heritage chapter 9. So that's all of these places are marked as having been outside the central city. But we've already agreed to do this on Friday. So the question that we were asked is, can we move on to the schedule of significant trees?